it down. Chop it down. Chop it down. You gon' chop it down. Chop it down. You gon' chop it down. I just appreciate everybody watching. Watch him throw the ball. We gon' pick it off. You gon' let him hit the hole or you gon' cut it off. You gon' play through fourth and long or you gon' punt it off. Your defenders, heavy hitters, put your pads in. Don't be looking for the ref to throw no flags in. Keep the helmet on, keep the cleats tight. You the type to want to win by any means, right? You should look alive. This is Trap or Die. The fucking cleats tight, yes sir. Yes, sir. What's going on, everybody? Let me go ahead and get the fellas in this thing right quick. Yes, sir. Hold on, what that? Boom. There we go. Let me add that FA right quick. Boom. There we go. Let me add that A right quick. Boom. There we go. Fellas, welcome back to another episode of the Trap or Die podcast provided to you by 214 Media. I'm your host, Molly Mo, Hen Dog Mo, Coach Mo, Tequila Mo tonight.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, man. I brought the little tequila out for the fellas, man. I said, Hefe on this thing, man. I said, all right, hold on. Y'all didn't brought the drink to the show the last X amount of times Montel been on. I said, I ain't gonna leave him hanging tonight. Gotcha. So let me bring the drink to the club, bro. You know what I'm saying? Ain't nothing to it. How you feeling today, Montel?
I've been drinking since 4. No, let me start.
God, bro.
No, man.
Oh my God, bro.
Hey,
man, they went to happy hour and everything, but time's up.
What's wild is I really did have a little drink today. You know what I'm saying? Working from home, snuck out. Me and wife snuck out. I went to go get something to eat. But now, man, I'm good, bro. I can't complain. Ready to talk about these boys, man. It was a tough loss, but there is a bright side. I'm not gonna lie to people, you know. So we gonna get into it.
All right. Well, we're gonna kick off the show with that. AJ, how you feeling, big dog? Everything good with you?
Yeah, everything's straight until Montel just said there is a bright side. That nigga gotta be drunk.
I love it, man. I love it. I don't think he's gonna be alone. I want to see what Dre got to say with this. But as we get things going, man, first and foremost, let's get the administrative item out of the way. If you are new to the Trap or Die podcast and you are checking in on YouTube or Twitch, make sure you hit that like button, make sure you hit that subscribe button, make sure you hit that follow button. I did start opening this thing back up on Twitter, but if you want to be a part of the show, make sure you migrate. Now, the channel or the show is generally popping on YouTube now, so I don't know what happened to the Twitch side of things, but died down a little bit. But point is, migrate. If you're on the Twitter, migrate over to YouTube, man, so you can be a part of the show. They don't let me read the comments on Twitter for whatever reason on Periscope. So I won't be able to see anything that you say in the chat. The show is there, but I just can't read none of your comments. So make sure you migrate over there. I see you all in the chat. Hawk, I see you, big dog. Yes, sir. What's going on with the Trap or Dive? The trappers, the morning trappers, the evening trappers, all that good stuff. We are 12 subs away, man. Slowly matriculating, man. I told y'all that on that morning show, man. I ain't doing no promo for none of that stuff, man. It's gonna be all genuine, all gradual, man. So whoever's subscribing, when we get that 1K mark, bro, we're gonna turn up. So we're gonna see that. Monty, I see you, big dog. What's going on with you? Let's get the good man Dre in this thing right quick. Boom, there we go. Dre, how you feeling tonight? Everything good? What you playing?
Big
fellas, man. Shit, everything's good, my man. My tail back, man. You know what I'm saying? Whenever we got him on, I know we're gonna have a good show because I got somebody to drink with.
Yeah, sure.
Hey, what I just say, bro? I just said, hey, look, I'm gonna bring a drink for y'all boys because last couple times I left y'all hanging, man. I got the drink for y'all, man.
It's really about to get crazy today.
Yeah. Or I'm gonna have to try to be responsible, I guess. P Scrab just checked in, man. Said Frank Wright for OC. Oh Lord Jesus.
He start early. Hey, he started early.
The funny thing is, I ain't even really got no problem with Frank Wright. I don't think he a bad coach, but I don't think that was a good situation in Indianapolis. Just understanding how everything played out. You can't trust Irsay worth a damn the way he been moving. Like you can't trust a single thing. So I don't know. Now I'm not saying here advocating for Frank Wright for OC. Just his name, seeing that popped up. I was like, I don't think it was no issue with that. With that man in Indianapolis. He said, did y'all vote yes to question 4? be honest with you, man, and I'm not bragging. It's a little. I didn't vote.
I knew you was going to say
I
that.
didn't vote.
I knew he was going to say that
I
shit.
didn't vote. Didn't vote.
Hey, boy, you ain't supposed to say it, bro.
I know,
Don't
yeah.
matter.
Say
I'm
it.
a transparent.
I'm
I'm a transparent person, bro.
I respect it.
Transparent person, but I ain't gonna lie to people, man. I ought to feel ashamed for myself. I kind of do, but I'm gonna keep it a buck with you, OG. I'm sorry. I am sorry. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about it, man. So we're gonna kick off the show with what Montel had to say. Now he ain't been here like in a week or two or so, so we're gonna give him the floor. Montel said that there's something about the bright side. I want to give you the floor just to talk about your overall thoughts since you wasn't here on Sunday. You can talk about your overall thoughts, kicking off the show about how the game went, and then your bright side. You can talk about your bright side, whatever it is that came to your mind. The floor is yours, and then we'll go ahead and follow up.
I'm gonna try to keep it short, but I got two things that I really
Podcast, bro. You ain't got to keep it short. Go
Look, it's two things I couldn't wait to touch on. Number one, and I know me, Dre, AJ, we all spoke about this in preseason, but seeing as the season has gone along, man, I gotta voice this. Scott Turner, I've never disliked a coach this much in my entire life, and he could be a great guy, but I think that when you receive a job and people already perceive it as like nepotism, and then you come in and then you're bad, and then you get an extension and you haven't proven anything, it really frustrates at least me. I'm gonna speak for myself, but I do believe that a lot of fans feel that way. Like, you haven't earned anything, bro. And then for you to continue to just be trash, and we have weapons, and I'm tired of the excuses. I don't think Heineke is great. I think Wentz was brought into a bad situation. But at the end of the day, we hold these players accountable regardless of situation. And Scott Turner, you've had 3 seasons, bro, and you haven't shown us anything. And I believe that, and I think the thing that really bothers me is just when I listen to the Logan Paulsons, when I watch you break down film more, when I watch, guys like Ben stand and speak, it's predictable. 3rd and 6, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5, he's running mesh. Like, we all know this. Like, we know this shit. And it's like, man, you think these defensive coordinators don't know this? Like, there's no creativity. The other thing that I want to touch on before I move on to my last point is like the Taylor Heineke versus Sam Howell versus that shit got to stop, man. If we fans of the team, we can't be rooting against Taylor Heineke and therefore rooting against the team just because you don't like Heineke, bro. Like, we know he's not the answer. It's okay to still root for your mob, even though 4 is not the. I'm so tired of saying that on Twitter. I get off of Twitter from time to time just because I feel like it's just such a toxic place. Like, people just wake up looking for an argument. Like, bro, stop that. You're weird if you're doing that shit. Like, if you don't like number 4, that's fine. Don't root against the mob. Like, people rejoice when we lose because Taylor Heineke threw an interception. You're fucking weird. Stop that shit. So outside of that, the bright side is, dog, this defense is playing ball. And although I'm a realist, I think we lose Monday night. And me personally, and again, I said this a couple weeks back, I think that after you lose to Philly, I do think it's time to see the young guy. I think it's time to see a little bit of Howell, only because at that point, like, what are we doing? Like, you're at the way that the division is set up, the way that the NFC is set up, 9 wins don't get you in this year. And middle of the pack it looks good for Ron Rivera, but it's another thing. I just don't want to see this staff back. I personally, I wouldn't mind bringing Jack back, if I'm being honest, but I don't want to see this staff back next year. I think 9 wins, 10 wins, a playoff berth potentially. That may bring them back. So I do think that losing may be best for this team. But if I'm saying the bright spot is, man, you could make the playoffs. And I know it's not likely, but looking at the way the schedule lines up, looking at the way the defense is playing, the opportunity is there. I just don't think that this coaching staff is seasoned enough to get us there. That's the unfortunate part. Like I said, with the Scott Turners, you can't score 17 points week in and week out and think that we're going to do anything. Like, it's just not happening, man. And it sucks because it feels like every year the offense is playing okay, the defense isn't, or the defense is playing lights out, the offense isn't. It's just like we can never compliment both sides of the ball complement each other. It's just the unfortunate nature of being a Washington fan. But I do think that the bright spot is the defense. I think you got to find a way to keep Deron Payne, try to keep this core together, and just try to move forward with the pieces you have, bringing in that new owner, potentially a new GM, potentially a new staff. You don't have to touch too much. Like I said in the past, I didn't think we had to let Kevin O'Connell go. That's why I mentioned Jack. I don't think we have to let Jack go when you bring in a whole new regime. Some pieces you can just keep in place and try to build there. And that's what I was saying the bright spot is. Some of it is for this season, but particularly in the future, you do have a team that is capable of winning now if you can just plug a few holes and, get that quarterback position right in the future.
So let me add to this right quick, just for the conversation now. Montel, you said the one of the biggest things, and it actually the crux of this whole show, purpose of this one tonight, you said like after we lose to Philly, go ahead and put the youngin in Sam Howell, right? There's a few things. Put the youngin in, and the thing is like, what do you want out of the rest of the Commander season? Like that's the whole question, and that's the whole conversation for tonight. And I'll go through some of the comments that we did get prior to the show, and we can gauge kind of the fan response in terms of what people are feeling, but also I have some things on what you said. So Mike on Twitter, said sweep the Giants, beat the Eagles, beat either the Eagles or Cowboys, then win 3 more, probably Texans, Falcons, and Browns. Get 10 wins. I'll settle for 9 with no major injuries heading into the offseason and draft. Playoffs would be gravy. Somebody else, Benz, said a complete offense. The defense is balling, so the offense needs to do their part. Dub P23 said 10 wins and playoffs. And then Taylor said wins, same as I've won it since 93. To what they're saying, clearly, like just based on some of the responses altogether, obviously, and that's a small section of the fan base, a very small section of the fan base. But when you just gauge kind of the question and how some are thinking, some are still thinking playoffs. Some are still thinking, I want to make the most out of this season. So I think that's why this in question is important, because all of us have a different response. Some of us, like you said you want the young, and you just want to see you want to see where Sam Howell is at. You don't have any faith in Scott Turner. You have some faith in the defense. You think that's a bright spot. You want to continue to see, and I'm putting words in your mouth, but I believe this is your sentiment, Montel. You want to see how good this defense is. You want to see how much they can really continue to be like a solid front, a solid unit as this season goes along. But you also want to see on the offensive side what this quarterback looks like. My thing is, fellas, and I'll hand it over to you all, Dre and AJ. This offense altogether, I had said this earlier today, and I still stick by this, right? It's a hard truth, and I think you all understand this because we talked about it a lot. I don't have like a lot of faith in Scott Turner. I'm not really even convinced that. I mean, I'm far beyond. I'm very convinced that he's not the OC to get this job done. I don't like he's had 3 years to do it. But here's the thing. I think that this coaching staff, unfortunately, may be here another year. If the outline in terms of the timeline of ownership changes is true, and they're saying that it may not be done until March, I think that this coaching staff is going to be here another year. I think the only person that may be out of a job is Scott Turner, right? But then the other thing is, when you look at the team in itself, we know Taylor Heineke isn't the answer, right? We know Scott Turner is the answer. But I think that another conversation that is important is, like, we always talk about how bad the offensive line is, right? But we don't talk about it enough. We don't talk about specifically why this offense cannot function the way any offense would want to function, right? My thing is, and this is not absolving the quarterback or the offensive coordinator, And it's funny. This is a sidebar. I started, and I'll tell you all, everybody that's listening, everybody that's watching, and you all on the show. I started tweeting for Hogs Haven, right? And the reason why I bring this up is I had a person. I put this point out earlier this morning, just thinking about the mug, and I had somebody who I follow on my personal account call the Hogs Haven account a fucking idiot. So I'm like, in my head, I'm like, y'all pretty bold when y'all don't know who talking behind this junk, bro. Because if I said this on my personal account, you wouldn't call me a fucking idiot. But I say that to say the reason why I brought it up is because when you look at this whole thing, the unfortunate truth behind this whole entire ordeal with this offense is the games are won and lost in the trenches. You cannot have a mediocre offensive coordinator. You cannot have a mediocre quarterback and then have a poor offensive line and expect to get anything done on that offensive side of the football. Right now, you're averaging 17 points per game on the season. Since week 2, so starting in week 3, after you scored 28 and 27 points in your first 2 games, you're averaging 14 points per game on the season. Sure, and there's no doubt that the quarterback plays a part, right? Sure, there's no doubt that the coordinator plays a part, right? But this is larger than that, and I don't think people are taking into account why you acknowledge the offensive line as a problem. You don't dive deeper enough into this situation. They aren't good right now. And sure, it's injuries that's playing a part. You don't have your best players out there. Wes Schweitzer, he's out for the season, I believe. Obviously, Chase Roulier out for the season. But this is also a guard issue. Like, you're not able to establish anything, whether it's pass protection. Pass protection is terrible. And in the run game, you're not dominating the line of scrimmage, or you're not controlling the line of scrimmage for majority of the games. You are running into several issues on this offensive side of the football, and you're not going to be able to win much of anything if you can't control the line of scrimmage. So again, I'm not absolving the coordinator or the quarterback, but this is a discussion where people just swiftly talk about it. Yeah, the offensive line ain't good, but look at this quarterback. Yeah, the offensive line ain't good, but look at this coordinator. Fellas, you ain't winning nothing if your trenches ain't working. And we seen that long enough on the defensive side of the football when that defensive line wasn't together like the way it is. Like, it was always a problem. Like, the biggest thing that we looked at 2016, what was one of the bigger issues on this team? You couldn't stop a nosebleed, bruh. Like, and that was on the fact that you can run or pass on these guys. But more importantly, offenses can control games because these guys weren't getting off the field. So my thing is, as I give it back to you all, I think everything that you said, Montel, is true. But I also think that we can't continue to, like, swiftly or briefly talk about the trenches. Like, that's always been important, no matter who is at quarterback and no matter who is at offensive coordinator. If you have mediocrity at either one of those, you're not going to overcome a terrible offensive line.
And that comment section is sponsored by Crack.
Hey, man, go ahead.
Yeah,
you got it, bro.
But I mean, you're right in every sentiment that you're sharing as far as the trenches being the main thing that needs to be upgraded. And if it's not right, you're gonna have struggles with your offense overall. I mean, just look around the league. The teams that are struggling offensively, even with elite quarterbacks or quarterbacks that we're familiar with succeeding, don't have good offensive line play. The Buccaneers, the Packers,
The Rams,
even the Kansas City Chiefs. You know, it's just that Patrick Mahomes is able to move more than those guys and create outside the pocket. But, I mean, this is kind of something Ron Rivera has been dealing with most of his tenureship being a head coach. In Carolina, they didn't have a good offensive line either. Like, we gave, well, not we, but the media and some teams gave kudos to them having a good offensive line and rewarding some of those players, such as the Andrew Norwells, the Trey Turners, due to the fact that Cam Newton was making everything offensively look so good. And those two guys happen to be in Washington. This is a head coach that doesn't understand how to build an offensive line. Carolina still has those struggles. They just had to use their top pick to draft Ike Akunu from North Carolina State. So I mean, it's just one of those things where it's like the longer that you keep this tenureship here, coaching staff wise, you're gonna have those type of issues. And then on the defensive side, like on the defensive line side, what are you doing to retain Deron Payne? You could have got this deal done in the offseason. You still have time to get it done right now, but you're not really hearing talks about that. I just feel like with the quarterback position.
And let me follow up on Peace Crab after you're done, AJ. I got something to say about this.
I agree with him already. I seen it come across the screen. I was just
I didn't even see the comment. But
we're gonna talk about it in a second. Go ahead, you got it.
Yeah. I mean, I just think that overall, personnel wise and the person that's making the decisions, it's like you really can't foresee the future. I mean, with everything up in the air now, even more with the ownership, it's like I complained about back in March when Scott Turner got an extension for what? Like, what has he done to signify that he should be extended? A lot of people complain, and even Ron, quarterback play, like it's hard to really determine the offense or Scott Turner and judge him. But now he's had a quarterback that they handpicked. Taylor Heineke is also somebody that they've worked with and handpicked. And it still looks like ass. When your offensive coordinator in the early portion of the game is calling a fake screen QB draw on 3rd and 9, like you're not even trying to compete and win. Like I've never seen that call in my whole life of football.
So apparently that's an RPO. It was an RPO, and Taylor blew it. To be clear, so it was actually a run pass option. So he had the option to throw that to Antonio Gibson, and he just said I'm a run it.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that just tells you even further about Taylor Heineke and his football IQ. Because there's no way in hell you're getting a 3rd and 9. Like, you're not Lamar Jackson. You're not Josh Allen. You're not any of these elite running quarterbacks or dual threat quarterbacks. But, I mean, I guess I won't dive all the way in on the expectations for the season. I just think that, they should keep trying to lose as much as possible. Like, not saying, hey, to my boys on the team, like, tank, but shit. Like, what would be the purpose of continuing to possibly pile up wins? Like, I really don't know, except for the Texas game, that maybe being a lock for a win. Other than that, you can't put up points. No matter how much we think the defense is playing better, they're not putting up points. Like, point blank period. You need points in order to win. No matter how stifling of a defense you have, this defense is not one that turns over the ball and creates points. We're not looking at the Baltimore Ravens where they had Chris McAllister or Ed Reed, Ray Lewis, and a bunch of these guys that were turning those interceptions or fumbles into touchdowns. So if you don't score points and you're not getting those opportunities, then what the hell are you going to do? The running game don't exist. I feel like Brian Robinson shouldn't even be playing, in my opinion.
Come on, man.
I think I would give him rest, bro. Like, I honestly feel like he should be resting. I feel like they rushed him to come back. Like that is not a normal occurrence. Like nobody gets shot in the knee twice, and even though it ain't ruined none of your ligaments, but you playing like a month later, like that don't even make sense to me. And now everybody fan wise expectation is for Chase Young to come back and be explosive. Like he's not gonna be explosive either. Like I told y'all maybe a month and a half ago, I would not have that dude play at all for the season because they're not competing for anything. So it's just one of those situations where everything is up in the air because of the whole Snyder situation of possibly selling this team. Is like maybe Ron will be back, but then if he is back, we got another quarterback situation. What happens there? Like maybe Ron resigns. I think that's where things get tricky. Maybe he resigns because he understands that, hey, my assistant coaches, they don't have comfortability being here because more than likely new ownership is coming in and they could probably get a job elsewhere where they'll have more security for themselves. But, I mean, I don't even feel comfortable with Ron moving on with Scott Turner. I don't think he'll do that. Like, We've seen him be so loyal to Jack Del Rio having bad defenses. So what's to say that he doesn't try to run it back again with Scott Turner? Like, unless his hand is truly forced by management, which I don't believe would be the case. I just think that overall, man, it's just sad to see where that offense looked, or it felt like week one, to where we are now, where it's like you're pretty much angels in the outfield getting points. Because I mean that pass to Curtis Samuel is damn sure a pick.
Yeah. Dre, I want to make sure I get your thoughts on this too before I respond to Peacecraft. So, because I know I forgot that you and AJ are going, so I want to make sure you get your thoughts out there. We can talk about it, and then I'll circle back to the thoughts about the offensive line.
Yeah, no, I just for expectations going on for the season, I feel like we as fans right now we're playing with house money because, like I said, we right now with the ownership situation up in flux and the timeline that they're given, right now they're saying, we could be looking at March as a finalized deal for the sale of the team, which means, obviously to AJ's point, if Ron Rivera doesn't resign, he's going to be the coach for the next, upcoming year, because whatever owner, if let's say that, March is when they sell the team, whatever owner comes in, it's going to be way too late in the process of free agency, your scouting, your draft boards and everything to, come in and say, hey, I want a clean house. So more than likely, I mean, we're looking at another year around Rivera. So as fans, I know a lot of fans want to look at this and say, hey, we should tank, we should do whatever. Right now, I mean, I'm just in a position where I do want to see growth with certain players. Losses don't really faze me right now. Wins don't really, get me too high right now, just because, like I said, everything's in flux right now. So we don't know what's going to happen, moving forward. But, as a fan, I'm going to root for the wins. Like I'm rooting for the wins. I'm here for it. And that's why I say we're playing with house money. So tanking and all of that, I'm not looking at that right now. I want to see, individual growth, as you stated, Mual, with the offensive line. I mean, this offensive line, like I said, it's hard to evaluate anything. That's why I do see a lot of fans going with Brian Robinson and saying that, he isn't this or he isn't that. And I feel like Brian Robinson, it's hard to evaluate a running back like him behind this offensive line, because I don't think they're good at anything right now. I don't think they're good at run blocking. I don't think they're good at pass blocking, but the problem is, people are looking for the blame, one or two people. No one can pick.
Yes.
And that's what I'm saying. No one can pick up a unit, regardless of the position group. There's not a quarterback on this roster that can pick up the unit or mask any flaws. Scott Turner doesn't know how to mask any of the flaws that this offensive line, the quarterbacks have, or even the running backs. And like I said, is no one in those units good enough to pick up another unit. So that's why I can't even at this point say, hey, well, we can't judge this person until we see this. No, I think we know enough about each of them individually, and we know enough to say that none of them are picking each other up. But you do hope to identify something there, especially for Ron's sake. If he's going to be here another year, Ron has to start identifying the ballers on his team. I mean, they've done some good. I think they've identified Ben St. Juste. Ben St. Juste looks like a stud on the outside of me. I thought he played exceptionally well for the most part against Justin Jefferson. I still stand by what I said about the whole pick six. I thought the pick six could have stood, because I just thought that's something, it could have went either way. If they didn't call it, you wouldn't have been saying, oh, that's egregious that they didn't call it, because they weren't calling it all game. So, but again, I think Ben St. Juste is a guy you've identified. Jamin is starting to look like an NFL player on a weekly basis. He's starting to put together, something to say, well, this guy's flashing. He's something. And you want to acknowledge that throughout the other position groups. I don't know if you're going to find a guy like that on the offensive line. Sam Cosmi hasn't played in a couple of weeks. You still have to see if he's a baller or not. I mean, you just drafted him last year in the second round. He's a guy at some point you're going to have to stick him back there in the offensive line. I know he's missed the last few weeks, but he's been active. But I guess they just haven't found a spot in the rotation with Cornelius Lucas playing the right tackle. I mean, you know what you have in Cornelius Lucas. I think he's a decent swing tackle. I don't know if he's a long-term starter over there. But, as Maul alluded to, that interior offensive line is an issue. Trey Turner is in it. Norwell has been falling off the last couple of seasons. You hope he can get back to the form that he once had, but he just doesn't look like he has that anymore. And then, of course, with Chase Roulier, he stays hurt a lot. But Tyler Larson looks pretty decent at center.
I like him.
Yeah, I mean,
I really like
I
him.
do too. I think he's a good replacement for Chase Roulier. But at some point, like I said, Ron on that side of the football, he's going to have to start identifying something. You're not going to identify in the quarterback room, but he has to find some kind of solution on the offensive line, like maybe Chris Paul, the guard. That's a guy I'll be interested in seeing going forward. And maybe if you find something in that offensive line, maybe, you'll see why they drafted Brian Robinson. Because right now, a lot of fans think he's garbage. They're ready to get rid of him. But I do think they need to see more of Antonio Gibson. I think he's putting a lot more better tape out there this year. Antonio Gibson is. The fumbling hasn't been an issue, knock on wood. Hopefully that won't become an issue, but that's been good. You're starting to see him get more looks and more opportunities. And I want to see that going forward because that's a guy we're going to have to make a decision on going forward as well. So hopefully, he gets more and more opportunities.
So Montel, I heard you said you agreed as well. So that's why I figured we keep it at the forefront of the conversation. Peace had said, we're not the first team to have a bad line. Other teams find a way to move the ball and score. So here's my piece, and I want to hear what you got to say, Montel, just for the sake of this conversation. My thing and my response to this is I wanted to emphasize the fact that I said you can't have a mediocre quarterback and a mediocre offensive coordinator and a poor offensive line and expect anything to happen with your offense. There are several different variables without the NFL, right? Somebody mentioned to me, they brought up 4 teams in particular. They said the Saints, the Colts, last year, Saints, Colts, Browns, and Steelers. There are 4 different reasons for why those teams are more successful in terms of scoring more points, or moving the ball more effectively than Washington. Let's go in order. The Saints. You have Sean Payton, one of the best fucking coaches in the history of the NFL. Sean Payton, especially on the offense side of football. He's going to find a way to move the football. And then you have Jameis Winston. If you're going to protect him, the best way to do it is to make sure he don't fucking throw the football. That's the first thing. Steelers, same thing. Ben Roethlisberger, shell of himself. You don't really have an offense. Your defense fell off last year. But guess what? Mike Tomlin, he's a guy who finds a way to move the football. The Browns, Chubb. You have Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. And then you have one of the best offensive lines over there. So that team all in itself, that was the offensive line comment was false. But you have one of the best running backs out there. You have one of the best running back duos out there. That's all you need. And then lastly, the Colts. You have one of the best run blocking offensive lines as well as one of the best running backs in the NFL. Like, what does Washington have in terms of overcoming anything on the offensive line? You don't have that quarterback. You don't have that running back. You don't have that receiver that says, I can just throw it up 60 yards down the field, and I know that in a one-on-one situation, he's going to go and get it. Now, I know people are going to say, you got Terry, you got Jahan. I understand that. But, every single time, they're not going to win this thing in a 50-50 battle. It's not always the case. Terry didn't even do that last year. And he has a couple of opportunities, and I'm not blaming him. I'm just saying the facts of the matter. He had several opportunities even last year, and he didn't win those one-on-ones. He did win some of them, but he didn't win all of them, and he didn't win the majority of them. So my point is, there is nothing that tells you with this team that you can really overcome several different flaws on this offense, and that's kind of where I was. I'll give you the floor just to get your thoughts out. And that was kind of my rebuttal to Peace. I do have some thoughts about the season. I think I'm more so in the same boat as AJ, but I'll touch on that after we talk about this comment. And Monty, I want to get your thoughts on why you agree with Peace.
So I agree with him primarily because, one of the things I'm tired of seeing is just subpar offensive lines mediocre quarterbacks actually produce. When you look at the Falcons and Marcus Mariota, when you look at and their offensive line, it's not great. When you look at the Giants and Daniel Jones and their offensive line isn't great, they're still finding ways to put up 28 points. There are worse teams who are still scoring points. You look at the Jets, like their offensive line isn't great and Zach Wilson isn't great, but they're still scoring points. Like the way I evaluate a coach is like one, getting the most out of your players, but making lemonade out of nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like that is your job as a coach, as a coordinator. And I don't think coaches get held as accountable as they should. To score 17 points a game in an NFL where you are supposed to score, the rules are tilted towards you to score. Like the fact that you can't put together any drives, you can put together 1 or 2 drives throughout an entirety of a game for 6-7 straight weeks.
That's terrible.
That's what I'm saying, bro. That's what I'm getting at. And I think that's where I'm so frustrated. Like, I can't even watch that. I can't even watch what they're putting out every week, bro. Like, to me, the excuses, they have to stop. Like, I get it. The offensive line is not great. I get it. Taylor Heineke is mediocre.
For the record, too, the Falcons and the Giants have top 5 rush offenses in the NFL.
They have top 5 rush offenses, but is that because the O-lines are great, or is that because their offensive coordinator is finding a way to get Daniel Jones, get Mariota out of the pocket, have them involved in the run game, running RPO? Are they more creative with their style of offensive play? The Giants' offensive line has sucked the past like 12 years, bro.
But they got a little bit better, bro. They got a little bit better, bro. And they got Saquon, bro. Like, come on.
Yeah, but Saquon was there last year as well. They still aren't a good – they're not a great offensive line, Mo. I don't think that our offensive line is that much worse than the New York Giants, if I'm being 100%.
They're not a great offensive line, but their play callers understand their strengths. Their strengths are within the
That's what I'm getting at. And that's your job as a coach.
And it's not necessarily that the offensive line of Atlanta or New York is better than Washington, but they have bodies that are athletic. They have more athleticism within their front than what Washington has per se. You feel me? Like, who do you really see on Washington's line that is really a pulling guard? Like,
only one person, that's Sam Cosmi, bro. And he plays tackle.
And he's not even playing guard. So they got him playing tackle. They're not getting creative with it. So their offensive coordinators, even though it may be their head coaches in Arthur Smith or Dayball, they're allowed to be creative and play off of the run, and that's how they're able to penetrate and get these points. I mean, Atlanta doesn't have a marquee running back like New York and Saquon, but they use their mix. I guess you can call it thunder and lightning, because Cordell Patterson will run. They'll have another guy running. They'll literally run the ball with 3 to 4 guys in a game, and that means those guys are staying healthy. Whereas in Washington, when Brian Robinson come in the game, you kind of know this dude just running straight. And then when Antonio Gibson come in, you know he's running outside. And there's no real rhythm there. That's why I say it all the time, and maybe it might be repetitive to some people within the comments, but it's like there's an art to play calling. You can't just go out there and just
I feel like
and call whatever you want to. There has to be a rhythm. There has to be a setup to it. Like, you do certain things in the game to set up to things later on in the game. Like, you're trying to get different looks, and Scott Turner just lacks that art of play calling.
That's why I think, and that's what I was getting at essentially. It's not that I agree with your point 100%, but I think like 85% of the blame belongs on Scott right now. And I'm not saying that because hear me out though. I'm not saying that because I think that Heineke is the answer. I'm not saying that because I think the offensive line is good. I think that you got to be able to draw up something that gives me more than 17 points. I think you got to give me something that gives me more than 2 drives a game or 1 drive a game. Like, you're an NFL coach with NFL players on your team, and nobody in this room right now, in this chat room, or that's watching right now, can tell me we don't have weapons. Regardless of how bad the offensive line, they could be the worst O-line in the league. I need more than 17 points a game, bro. I need more than that. At the end,
your man Scott Turner ran a tight end jet sweep, gained 24, 26 yards, and then right after that play did a double reverse flea flicker. Like, that makes no sense.
Nepotism, man. I'm gonna just leave
And Taylor Heineke threw that joint.
that, bro.
And Taylor Heineke threw that joint to section 101, row A, seat 2 and 3.
Y'all don't feel like he guessing sometimes? Like sometimes when he called the play, like sometimes it's like, yo, it's 3rd and 1, bro. Like why you just don't run if you know we gonna go for it on 4th and down? Why you ain't just run it?
I feel like Scott Turner goes through the coach suggestions list on Madden for his play calls. He scrolls in this set right here. I don't see too much, but this one looks decent.
If Jay Tyler in this chat, bro, he would be like, bro, I've been telling you this whole time. He runs the same shit I run on Madden.
Yo, it's really crazy, bro. Like, and I'm not saying I know more than Scott Turner or none of that, bro. But compared to what I see around the league, this dude, I swear, like, and it seemed like he guessing out there sometimes, and I know it's not supposed to look and feel like that, bro.
But Montel, to your point, I wanted to say, because I listen to a lot of the guys. It's a lot of guys like Chris Coley and all of those guys, Logan Paulson's. I respect their ability. Like I said, Mual, all of these people, and everyone consistently says the same thing when they look at Scott Turner. They say, well, "What the hell is he doing?" Sometimes, like Chris Cooley even just flat out said, like, he didn't mean to say it. It was like a raw emotion that came out of him. But Kevin Sheehan asked him, why don't the offensive play caller for Washington call certain plays or do this the certain way? And Cooley just raw came out and said, because it's so fucking idiot. Like, and I had never seen it. You know what I'm saying? He straight up said it. He was like, but he regretted it the moment it came out of his mouth. But it was raw emotion. He was like, he's a fucking idiot. And to me, I was like, when you got guys like this saying this, guys who are really smart and they can diagnose plays, they've been breaking down plays for years and years and years. They're looking at this and they're saying these things. You have to look at it with some credence and say, man, it's something to this. Like, this dude really is out of whack when it comes to this.
Yeah. I think just on my side, I guess, we ain't got to be done with the conversation, but on my side, I think to put a bow on, like, what do I want out of the rest of the season? I said that I kind of aligned with AJ here, but like, I truly think that this season, I think was more, what makes it like a little bit more in a gray area is knowing that Dan Snyder isn't going to be here for long. And like, that's a distraction, and it's not a bad distraction, but it's like, how do you even stay focused on this year, knowing that, like, in my head, knowing that Ron Rivera ain't gonna be here for much longer, and even if it means he's here in 2023, right, because of how this ownership thing plays out, Ron Rivera ain't gonna be here that much longer. That whoever's gonna own this team is much more intriguing than figuring out how. It's much more intriguing than figuring out how Washington's going to fight their way to 9-8 and say that we had a successful season. And then, like, you think about all these things about on the field, and that's no disrespect to the players. That's no disrespect to everybody that that is really invested in this team. Obviously, like we stated when we started out and we read the comments on Twitter, like, there are people who are still invested in this season, right? But I just don't know, like, how that holds any weight anymore. Like, we always known, at least some of us, right? We always known that, that 1-4 start, and even that loss just this past week to Minnesota, and I don't want to be like come across too negative and I'm just speaking my truth. That's just who, like, this regime is, like, and those 3 wins, you don't apologize for those wins. You don't take those wins away, but you knew that they were very much losable. Those games you could have lost, and there were several pinpoint factors that you can say, yeah, you just better be glad you was facing a sorry team. And those are some things that you just kind of come away with. My point is, and bringing this up, like, what do I want for the rest of the season? It's confusing, and it's confusing because of the fact that I know that we're getting a new owner. I know that Washington is not going to be under the Dan Snyder grips for much longer, or the Snyder grips altogether for much longer. But then I know that like, the way that they're playing has some small intriguing storylines, and I think it starts with what Montel said, that defensive side of the football. I'm not going to sit here and say that they're elite. I'm not going to sit here and say that they're playing very good. I think one of the mistakes that people are doing right now is jumping the gun, because I have said, and if you listen to this platform, you know that I'm not bullshitting you. My litmus test has always been the Philadelphia Eagles. It wasn't even the Minnesota Vikings. I thought they were going to be able to keep that close. But this week is going to be a litmus test because they haven't faced that quality. Justin Jefferson is a dog receiver. But guess what? That Minnesota Vikings offense hasn't been playing like an elite offense. Yes, you have star power on that offense, but they haven't been playing that great. So this is that litmus test for me to really see like how good are these guys. And if they play really strong, I'm in that boat of, hey, I gotta give them their credit. My opinion has formally and officially changed. But yeah, I think that the only thing that's really keeping me around is like, do we have these pieces on the defensive side of the football to really sit here and say, like, when this new owner comes in, if he can hit in the new regime, and if they can hit on court, and I guess by default, Ron Rivera, if he's here for another year, if he can hit on that goddamn quarterback, they may have something for Washington for the next 3 to 4 years. So that's kind of where I'm at with this big picture thing.
You know what's been annoying me seeing this week on Twitter? I've been seeing some folks like saying, I really like Ron Rivera, like I wouldn't mind keeping him. Like, what the fuck do you like about Ron Rivera? Like, what the fuck do you like about him? Because I am so
AJ
confused.
hate that man.
I mean, it's
but
like,
not really though. I think
it's like,
you
what do you like? Like, I'm so confused. Like, because this is the person that has bought all the ingredients to the food that you are eating, and the food is salty, nasty, prepared in the kitchen with roaches, rats, all that.
Lord,
How can
Jesus.
you dare out your mouth utter those words that, hey, I like Ron Rivera? Like, what do you like? There's no good move that he's made. Like, just look at his staff. There's no good move on there. There's nobody you would necessarily say, maybe, I don't know, off the top of my head, just Randy Jordan, because he's been a top running back coach in this league for a very long time. Outside of that, there's nobody you would say, if you bought this team, you would keep for the next go round. Like, you would keep.
A lot of fans like Chris Harris. What about Chris Harris? A lot of fans like him.
He's cool, but I can go get me another DB coach. Like, Aubrey Pleasant is out there. Like, I like Aubrey. I like other DB coaches, but it's like, it's nobody that you are like, I need to keep. And it's just confusing to me, because it's like, when you say that, you have to remember, like, this guy has done so much with the quarterback position. He's done so much with the offensive line position. He's done so much with the defensive line depth, you know, where you got folks saying, let's cut the Ridgeway kid from Dallas.
Hell no, bro. That's just so short-sighted, bro. I hate that.
Yeah, but it's just like, you have no depth at D tackle. Last night I seen Roquan Smith balling the fuck out for Baltimore. Mm-hmm. You didn't make no play to try to add someone of that caliber this offseason at your middle linebacker position. Your cornerback room, you have no depth at cornerback. The guy you went and signed, you thought that you could force him to do something else that he's never done really primarily in his career. And
y'all know they benched Wild Goose, bro? I didn't even know that until Ron Rivera spoke. He said they essentially just didn't trust him after, you know, he had a rough game in Indianapolis. So
remember, that's how I talked about that on Sunday. Yeah, Danny Johnson played over him. Yeah, Danny Johnson played over him.
But even look at that.
Like, go, you got it.
But look at that. Like, Danny Johnson's been with the team for how long? He's been getting reps for how long at nickel in different corner positions? Like, yeah, he's not the best dude, but you went and brought a dude off the street from another team to replace somebody that you already have within your roster that you're not cutting. You're not even releasing this guy because you don't feel like he works for you. You're still saying that he works for you, but you're not even giving him the opportunity to play. So it's just like, are you really coaching? Like, what are you here for? Then during the games, you just got your arms folded and you can't even manage the shit properly. Like, so you're not calling no plays. You're not really rallying up the guys on the sideline. You ain't drawing up no strategy. But then the one thing that you should be doing at a top tier level, because you ain't got no other game day responsibilities, you're not managing the clock. You're not managing the challenges. You're not managing your timeouts. Like, what do you provide? Like, what What do you provide of substance for us?
Hey, look, you talk to the fans. The only thing that are in the boat of they like Rivera. You talk to those fans, they're gonna tell you, I love how he's a leader of men and how he never has a team quit on him. That's what they're gonna tell you. And who even knows what merit that holds for anything these days? If you ain't winning no football games, man. I will say I think we're good on any. Matter of fact, get a floor to you all. What are we missing from this conversation? We talked about, what do we want to see out the rest of the season? We talked about that offensive side of the football. We know the defense side has been playing good. But like at least for me, I'm speaking for myself. This defense has some more tests to really show like how legitimate they are. Or if it's just a team that's taking advantage of like the lesser units or the average to below average units. Are we missing anything? AJ, like, do you want to speak on Jack Del Rio at all? Has your opinion changed on him, or is he still a person who is outdated and hasn't doesn't really have the grasp of the defense? I don't know. I'm just trying to see if we covered all our bases for this episode.
I think for me, I'm not going to touch on Jack Del Rio.
Okay.
Like I said, the whole staff just blows my mind overall. I just think the main thing maybe we not talking about is possibly seeing Carson Wentz return next week against who they played.
Hey,
Texans?
Taylor asked it up. He coming back. Carson coming back. Matter of fact, did we talk about that Sunday after the game?
I think we talked about it a little bit, like
briefly.
In the closing minutes, but I think that's one of the things that we got to start watching for coming up here in the next week. But really outside of that, I hate just hearing people saying, "Oh, guys fight for Ron." Nah, they fighting for their money. They fighting for their next payday. They fighting for the next opportunity on the team. They don't give two shits about no Ron Rivera. They fighting for their next job, their next meal for their family.
Well, let's do the percentage. What's and we can close out with this. What's the percentage of that you all think about Carson Wentz coming back if things don't work out on the offensive production side and specifically the quarterback side on Monday night? Like, do you give let's do all three quarterbacks, matter of fact. What is the percentage that Carson comes back? What's the percentage that Taylor stays? What's the percentage that Sam Howell ends up taking over moving forward?
This is after the Eagles game.
Yes, after the Eagles game, assuming that things don't work out during the game for the offense and the quarterback.
Honestly, I give it 75% chance Carson. I give it 24% Taylor and 1% Howell. That's my percentages.
Say it again. You said 75% Taylor.
75% Wentz. Yeah.
Okay.
24% Heineke, 1% Howell. If things don't go well this weekend. I still don't see Howell as a realistic option for them. For them, that is.
So where you at with the AJ? And Montel, we were saying we transitioned to quarterback spot. There's a real possibility that Carson can mess around and come back after the Eagles game. So we're saying, and I'm giving the floor to AJ right quick, but just to catch you up to speed, what's the percent chance of Carson Wentz returning? What's the percent chance of Taylor Heineke staying as a starter? And then what's the percent chance of Sam Howell taking over as the starter? AJ, what you got?
I got 100% Wentz coming back, and that's it. Because once you use that 100, ain't nothing else left. He coming back next week.
Montel, where you at with this one?
So I'm my bad, guys. I had left for a second, but you're saying if we lose this week,
assuming things don't, I got you. Assuming things don't go good on the offensive side of the football and the quarterback is subpar again, what is the percent chance that Taylor Heineke stays at quarterback starting? What's the percent chance that Carson Wentz returns as the starter? What's the percent chance that Sam Howell takes over at starter?
I think they let Heineke play against Houston. That's a tough one, depending on how the game goes. But I don't think that they even like what they saw with Wentz, and I think that they kind of know what they have as it pertains to Wentz, and I think they let
But
Heineke play
but
for some
but
choose.
Montel, let me ask you: if they hate what they seen out of Wentz, then they got to be damn near dead what they seen out of Heineke.
But I think that they expected this from Heineke in a sense. They thought that they would get much more out of Wentz, and my only fear about putting Sam Howell in, and I do want to see him, and I know a lot of others, they're ready to see him because it's just like that's the only inkling of hope that we have is throwing Howell in for the last 7 games or whatever it's going to be, and you're essentially going to have a new coordinator next year. You put him in the same situation that Haskins was in. So if he does succeed and looks good in the system, we still don't want to see Scott. And Scott more than likely isn't going to be here next year. So you're going to have a rookie quarterback running an entirely new system under a new coordinator, and then it's just going to be okay. Like now what? So I don't know. It's a tough situation. Like that position for us is dead, man. It's like
it's not an easy discussion to talk about. It's never going to be an easy discussion when you're talking about two known mediocre quantity quarterbacks, two average to below average quarterbacks, and an unknown. It's never going to be easy, but I think it's the bed that they made. It's just the situation where you're looking at quarterbacks. Excuse me, their situation, and you're saying, we have, what is it? It's been 9 games. We have 8 more games left until we can really figure out another route to take at the quarterback position. But truth of the matter is, Sam Howell gotta play. And if I got to get my percentages after the Eagles game, in particular, after the Eagles game, I'm gonna sit here and say, it's probably 95% Carson Wentz, 4% Taylor Heineke, and 1% Sam Howell. I think that this coaching staff is not going to quit on the season until they're mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, and that's what gives Sam Howell his go time. So they're going to fight tooth and nail for, if things work out for Taylor, they're going to fight tooth and nail for Taylor to continue playing and seeing what they can do out and what they can get out of him. But then if things don't work out, they're going to go back to the guy that they believed in, and that they wanted, and they're going to say, that injury ain't nothing. We want you back. Go ahead and win some games for us, and we'll figure things out from there. But if you end up losing to the point where we're out of playoff contention, I'm going to go ahead and see what Sam Howell gets. And that may be 3 or 4 games. But I truly think, like, if you're gonna try and figure out this answer at the quarterback position, you have to give Sam Howell a chance. But I don't think you give Sam Howell a chance after the Eagles game. So that's kind of where I'm at.
I think the only way you see Sam Howell play this year is, well, Wentz can't return until next week. But the only way you see Sam Howell play is if Taylor Heineke gets injured Monday night.
Yes. Oh, no, I said yes too fast. Go ahead, Dre.
I was just going to say, to AJ's point, I think you will see Sam Howell if and when they are mathematically eliminated from playoff contention. I think that's when they will probably go with Sam Howell. Because, I mean, right now, Ron still thinks he has, a lot to play for. He's never going to admit that he's down. Now he's a stubborn guy. But the thing is,
I love Roger's energy, bro. I'm sorry. Roger always comes in killing it with the energy, bro. Go ahead. You got the floor.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, for next year, Ron, assuming he is next year, and I think he probably believes he'll be next year, especially if the ownership process is going to take as long. His smartest or best 2 options, and honestly, it's probably going to be one of these, is the Sam Howell or Carson Wentz, because these are the 2 guys he picked, and he has to be right about something. And I'm going to say Sam Howell is the only decision that right now can absolve him from anything. And because he's not going to want to pay Carson Wentz that money next year. I don't think Carson Wentz has shown you anything at all that he's worth picking up an option or he's worth giving any kind of guaranteed money that's going to salvage the rest of the team, because you kind of went out there this year and you said, hey, I didn't get better at the interior offensive line or some of these other positions because we paid a quarterback. You paid the quarterback, but he isn't much better than the backup. I know we're having this conversation and this weighing observation of who's better or who's worse, Heineke or Wentz. And I honestly think it's a pick your poison type of situation as a fan looking at either. With Carson, you're looking at, oh man, here's a guy who's going to hold on to the ball. He's going to be trigger shy, but he can make a big play. He may catch a defense off guard here and there during the game. With Heineke is, he's a gamer. He's going to come up when the lights are bright, but when the lights aren't bright, you're coming back from 2 scores or down a score, or he's throwing some reckless interception, or he's going against what his limitations allow him to do. So right now, like I said, I don't think you have an answer at quarterback, and Ron's only saving grace will be to find out at some point what he can do with Sam Howell, and Sam Howell has to look better than those two guys for anyone to have faith in what Ron is trying to do or accomplish next year if he's here next year.
Sounds good. I gave the floor just to make sure we had some follow-ups. Okay. All right. One more thing from Roger. He said with the sale of the team late January, that gives the owner to find the time for GM, and GM finds the staff, finds that sale will be the new league year, so it can be done. That is hoping for the bright side. And for what it's worth, Roger, I am hoping I'm just following reports based on information we have. I think that it's not going to be till March, but I am hoping that things happen before that. I do understand that the finance crew or whatever finance organization or division doesn't meet until March, but they can also have meetings. There's nothing to stop them from having meetings before March. So that's a good site for Washington in terms of trying to finalize the sale. So we'll cross that bridge when we get there, I guess. Fellas, man, another great show. AJ, Dre, Montel. We got to keep doing this more often, Montel. You got to keep bringing your ass back on the show. I said, I know you guys. I know you're a busy man over there, and you got things going on. So I'm gonna just make sure I check in with you and tap in with you. Well in advance. You popped in today, last second, but I'll make sure I tap in with you before the day of the show. But fellas, man, look, enjoy y'all day, Dre, or evening. Dre, I fucked around and hit on the last 2 primetime games, man. I had the Titans on the Sunday night, and then I had the Ravens. I said underdogs, but I had the Ravens on the Monday night. So I
had the Ravens last night too.
Yeah, look at you, man. We on the same page finally. So things ain't doing too bad, man. I got one game tonight. We're gonna see how that thing go. I haven't even looked at the score yet, but I pray to God I'm winning by the time the show ends. Is it NFL or you got basketball?
It's college.
Football.
Miami, Ohio versus Ohio. I like to get into those matching games.
Don't tell me that's the same game I got. That's the same game
I got. We're on the
bro.
Same game tonight.
These gambling ass niggas, man.
Ain't that like the only action wrong? Put that in the chat. I'm like, I don't.
Yeah, he did. We just happened on the same side too. So I'm like, all right, we're gonna see what's up, bro. I Dre, good luck. I don't know what side you on. Good luck. Just leave it like that. But we out of here, Roger. I see you, big dog. Yes, sir. We back Thursday night previewing Washington and Philly. We do have a guest on the Philly side that's going to come through and break some things down on that mob, man. I don't think they're the best team in the league. I still think it's the Bills and then the Chiefs and then the Eagles. But we'll figure things out when that comes along. But the fellas be back Thursday. I'm back tomorrow morning for the Commanders Morning Show film session on Vikings in Minnesota. Fellas, y'all take care. Enjoy y'all evening. And then I'll see y'all Thursday.
All right, y'all be easy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Peace.